him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 10 through 13.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution.
CINN Stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine. Point and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN Stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices. The Beth Messiah Congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal mid-Rosh and fellowship. Beth Messiah Congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath.
The Supreme Court rejects Montana's campaign money limits. Democrats are running short of money and running a deficit, so what else is new? And anti-Semitism with a literary glow. My name is Howard Riell, and this is Real Truth. You're listening to the American Freedom Network, streaming live around the world at AmericanNewsNet.com, and on Facebook and on YouTube, and now on Real TV, and in the book, Real Truth, Stay Angry, and of course, as always, broadcasting out across the Colorado Front Range on KHNC, Johnstown, Colorado, 1360 AM The Lion. Our call-in number, 877-254-7524. My friends, welcome back. Item from Bloomberg. Democrats cancel the political convention kickoff event at the Charlotte Motor Speedway and will move the activities to Charlotte's main business district, the convention's host committee announced. The move comes as party planners are grappling with a fundraising deficit of roughly $27 million, according to two people familiar with the matter who requested anonymity to discuss internal party politics. With a party ban on direct contributions from corporations, the host committee has raised less than $10 million, well short of its $36.6 million goal, said one of the people. Stop. Yeah. With a party ban on direct contributions from corporations. It is the corporations that pump unthinkable amounts of money into the political parties. Without it, they depend on Mr. and Mrs. Front Porch USA, the average Joe. Average Joes don't care very much for the Democratic Party, and so they are hurting. Now, what's funny about this item? The funny part is this. The Democrats are trying to get a president elected, and they are already running deficits. They're already in red ink to the tune of $27 million. It is, in the final analysis, what Democrats have traditionally done best. Item from Reuters, Jay Vicini writing. The U.S. Supreme Court on Monday followed up on its 2010 ruling that unleashed corporate spending in federal elections, reversing a decision that upheld a century-old Montana law restricting business political campaign expenditures. By a 5-4 vote, the High Court ruled for 3 corporations, a political advocacy group called American Tradition Partnership, Inc., a nonprofit that promotes shooting sports, and a small family-owned painting business that challenged the law for violating their free speech rights. In 2010, by a 5-4 vote and splitting along conservative liberal ideological lines, the Supreme Court gave corporations the constitutional free speech right to spend freely to support or oppose political candidates in federal elections, a ruling sharply criticized by President Barack Obama. Stop. My friends, the hypocrisy is blinding. How many king's ransoms did Obama raise? And how stupid were Americans to be impressed by that number and to vote for him? Let me tell you something. The Supreme Court is composed of, basically, corporate lawyers. Corporations have been given more and more and more freedom. Now, some degree of freedom is fine. Too much is not good because, as we've discussed on this show in the past, the law considers corporations people. What kind of people are these corporations? They are sociopaths. A corporation has no morality, no compassion, no feeling for others, no philanthropy. A corporation knows only one thing: profit at the expense of all else. And so the freer a sociopath becomes, the freer he is to wreak havoc. Corporations? Fine. Capitalism? Fine. Common sense? Where the hell is it? Item from John Whitehead at the Rutherford Institute. If you're dark-haired, brown-skinned, and have the misfortune of living in Arizona in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in the state of Arizona versus United States of America, get ready to be stopped, searched, and questioned. Then again, if you're a citizen living in the United States, this is merely one more component of the police state that appears to be descending upon us. Stop! My friends, Arizona has a major, major, major problem. Illegal immigrants getting in. Committing crimes, using up national state resources. What are we going to do about it? Well, if you see someone who might be an illegal immigrant, you pull them over and question them. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense? Well, there are two things that don't make sense. Just because this law makes sense in Arizona doesn't mean it makes sense in Iowa or New York or New Hampshire. Let's not paint with a wide brush. Second, the only reason Arizona has to worry about the tremendous influx of illegal aliens is because the federal government, be it in the person of George Bush or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or the first Bush, doesn't matter, they refuse to secure our southern border. It is illegal to enter the country illegally, but go ahead. That's why all the hubbub and the tumult in Arizona. Can anything be abused? Absolutely. Can a good idea prove to be a good idea? Absolutely. Do I, a white-skinned American, want to be stopped walking down the street for fear that I'm an illegal alien? No, because that's absurd. It's just about as ludicrous as a 90-year-old grandma being frisked at the airport by TSA. But if America, and more specifically states like Arizona, Texas, if America's being damaged, and I mean badly damaged, by illegal aliens, doesn't it make sense to step up and try a bold solution like asking them to show that they're citizens of the United States? It makes all the sense in the world. Well, you're going to say to me, well, Riell, you can't have one and the other. You can't have your cake and eat it, and I'm going to tell you we can. Why can't we? Why can't we? Let it be legal in the states that border Mexico, and let it be illegal elsewhere. Why is this a hard one? Thanks to a muddled decision handed down by the Supreme Court on June 25th, Arizona police officers now have broad authority to stop, search, and question individuals, citizen and non-citizen alike. Stop! There's the rub. Why can they question a citizen? Once I show you my driver's license or my voter registration card, which proves I'm a citizen, why do I have to answer questions after that? That's a flaw. While the law prohibits officers from considering race, color, or national origin, it amounts to little more than a perfunctory nod to discrimination laws on the books, while paving the way for outright racial profiling. Stop! What the hell is wrong with racial profiling? If we've got too many Mexicans entering the country illegally, maybe, possibly, perhaps, just could be, we should be questioning Mexicans. If terrorism is being done by Muslims, who do you think we should be stopping? Presbyterians? We're off to a belated week.
The Lord brings the counsel of the nations to nothing. He makes the plans of the peoples of no effect. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart to all generations. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, the people he has chosen as his own inheritance. Psalm 33, verses 10 through 12.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescents to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188. Whether you're in automotive, sporting goods, hardware, health, wellness, electrical, electronics, construction, carpet cleaning, legal, or animal care, and offer exceptional customer service and provide quality services or goods, you're honest, reliable, and professional. If you have a business, we have the customers. Let us put you in touch with our loyal, supportive, and dedicated listeners today. They're waiting to hear from you. It's inexpensive. It's effective. Call KHNC at 1-800-205-6245.
Welcome back to Real Truth, my friends. My name is Riell. Judge Andrew Napolitano on Fox News. This is presented to us by Mediaite.com, talking about the issue we were just discussing, how to stop illegal immigration, what Arizona's doing, and why people are kvetching about it. Let's listen to this video. Here we go.
Hey, despite yesterday's Supreme Court ruling that struck down much of Arizona's illegal immigration law, Governor Jan Brewer is still vowing to enforce one crucial part that the court upheld that made her quite happy.
That's right. The rule that allows police officers to check a person's immigration status, no questions asked.
Today is a day when the key components of our efforts to protect the citizens of Arizona, to take up the fight against illegal immigration in a balanced and constitutional way, has unanimously been vindicated by the highest court in the land.
But with the Obama administration effectively vowing to ignore that law, what is left? Will the law still work?
Steve wouldn't ask me that, but he would ask Judge Napolitano that. He's a senior political judicial analyst. So, Judge, is she right? Does she have a reason to rejoice?
I don't think so, but in fairness to her, she's obviously looking for how much water is left in the glass rather than how much has been poured out by the court. The heart and soul of the statute, which is when the federal government is not doing its job, the states can stand in the shoes of the federal government. That's been out, and the Supreme Court said that with respect to immigration, that can't be done. What Governor Brewer was happy about a few minutes ago has since changed. At the time she made that statement, she was under the belief that if you were stopped for a non-immigration event, something as profound as murder or as frivolous as jaywalking, the police could ask you for your immigration status.
Right. They can?
They can. That's the part of the statute that was left in place by the Supreme Court. But since she made that statement, the Obama administration said two things which will profoundly frustrate her and the good people of Arizona. They said, we're not going to tell the police the immigration status of people whose status we are aware of, and we're not going to take the human beings. We're not going to accept people from the police in Arizona who have immigration problems unless they're charged with a felony. So basically what remains of the statute is just a gathering of statistics.
It's like amnesty. Not technical amnesty, but if you're there without a felony on your record...
if I could wear my political hat for a minute, I would say that the Republican Party in Arizona should be very happy. It's almost inconceivable that the president can carry that state this November after what he's done to their sovereignty and their independence.
Okay, take that hat off a second. Back to the legal judge, Napolitano.
Yes, Mr. Kinley.
I didn't think it was allowed for you not to decide not to enforce a Supreme Court ruling. How can you decide that? How could that be okay?
Well, it's not a matter of not enforcing a Supreme Court ruling. It's a matter of exercising discretion. There's even some There's even reference in the Supreme Court opinion to the discretion that federal authorities have when deciding how aggressively to enforce something or when to pull back. And they've decided we want to pull back so much, we're not even going to give Arizona police information that up until yesterday we used to give them.
Well, you just cited part of the majority opinion that was written by Justice Kennedy yesterday, and it says, discretion in the enforcement of immigration law embraces immediate human concerns. Unauthorized workers trying to support their families, for example, likely pose less danger than alien smugglers or aliens who commit a serious crime. Some discretionary decisions involve policy choices that bear on this nation's international relations.
Well, that's very soothing words for the Obama administration.
Could help them pass a DREAM Act.
Yes, it could. It also gives them comfort when they decide, you know what, we're not going to enforce the portions of the immigration law that the president doesn't like.
We don't.
The president can decide not to enforce something if he believes it's unconstitutional. He can't decide not to enforce something just because he disagrees with it.
All right, so do you think this could lead to the DREAM Act?
Well, that's going to require a lot of Republican votes who probably would prefer to address this after the November election.
But don't you think this is a preview of how the president, if elected to a second term, might just, if he can't get any help in Congress, he's just going to do a lot of these executive things?
Absolutely. If you think those executive orders are dangerous now, just wait until he doesn't have to face re-election again.
All right. Judge Andrew Napolitano, the man with at least two hats that we know of. We thank you very much.
A pleasure, guys.
All right.
Do you believe in heaven and hell?
Yes, because it keeps me on straight. I'll still be committing crimes every...
I don't know where they came up with that question at the end, but the fact of the matter is this. The Obama administration doesn't feel like enforcing certain laws. It used to be that laws were laws. Under Obama, anything is up for grabs. And just as Judge Napolitano said, if you think he's being a dictator now, just wait and see, God forbid, if he wins the re-election. There will be no stopping him because, after all, what can anyone do to him? Let's go back to John Whitehead from the Rutherford Institute writing about the Supreme Court decision. Whitehead says the following. When all is said and done, the mindset behind the Supreme Court's ruling in Arizona versus United States is no different from that of Florence versus Burlington, which prioritized making life easier for overworked jail officials over the basic right of Americans to be free from debasing strip searches. Or Kentucky versus King, where police were given greater leeway to break into homes or apartments without a warrant. Or Brooks versus the city of Seattle, where police officers who clearly used excessive force were then, when they repeatedly tasered a pregnant woman during a routine traffic stop, were granted immunity from prosecution. These seemingly unrelated cases perfectly encapsulate how much the snare enclosing us has tightened, how little recourse we really have, at least in the courts, and how truly bleak is the landscape of our freedoms. What these respective rulings reveal is that the governmental bureaucracy has stopped viewing us, the American people, as human beings who should be treated with worth and dignity. That was the purpose of the Bill of Rights. The Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures of our persons and effects was designed so that government agents would be forced to treat us with due respect. With this protection now gone, those who attempt to exercise their rights will often be forced to defend themselves against an increasingly inflexible and uncompromising government. Some will come under scrutiny for their political or religious views, others for the color of their skin, while still others may be targeted for merely being in the wrong place at the wrong time or for trying to hold fast to some last shred of dignity. In this way, the court's ruling in Arizona versus United States sounds a warning far greater than the singular manner of how states deal with illegal immigration. To those who can hear it, it says, beware. The police state is almost upon you, unquote. My friends, slippery slope is the phrase you're looking for. Once we take an action, no matter how right that action may be,
governmental actions tend to have momentum, and they carry forward, and they spread like viruses. That's why today's good ruling could be tomorrow's catastrophic ruling, and so I understand where John Whitehead is coming from as a civil libertarian. Let's jump ship from John Whitehead, who is an extraordinarily bright individual, to writer Alice Walker, who's kind of a dim bulb. The headline comes from RightSideNews.com. Okay, it's written by someone named Adam Levick. It's talking about Alice Walker. Now, she's famous for having written The Color Purple, okay, and also for being an idiot. Here are some quotes from Alice Walker's blog, okay? Quote, Jesus, a Palestinian, is still being crucified. Quote, Israeli settlers are the Ku Klux Klan. Quote, I think Israel is the greatest terrorist in that part of the world, and I think in general the United States and Israel are great terrorist organizations themselves. Quote from Alice Walker, but I feel that Israel, that the Israel that many Jews dreamed of having, that one is gone. That's demolished. I think it's time for people to accept that, because what you have now is something that is so frightening. Israel is as frightening to many of us as Germany used to be. The literary foot-stomping, which is Alice Walker's recent refusal to permit her book, The Color Purple, to be translated into Hebrew, as bizarre as it is, can hardly have come as much of a surprise to anyone familiar with the writer's history of anti-Israel activism. Neither does The Guardian's decision to showcase extensive sections of Walker's letter of refusal to the would-be publisher exactly come as a shock. Walker is a long-standing activist in the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, BDS, and indeed allowed her letter to the Israeli publisher, which requested permission to translate the book, to be posted on the website of PACBI, the Palestinian Campaign for Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel, which leads and sets the tone for the BDS campaign. PACBI, does not aspire to a two-state solution. It promotes the return, quote-unquote, of millions of descendants of Palestinian refugees, thereby rejecting the existence of Israel within any border. PACBI opposes normalization and has produced a document which defines that term as, quote, participating in any project, initiative, or activity, whether locally or internationally, that is designed to bring together, whether directly or indirectly, Palestinian and or Arab youth with Israeli, whether individuals or institutions, and is not explicitly designed to resist or expose the occupation and all forms of discrimination and oppression inflicted upon the Palestinian people, unquote. PACBI founding member and steering committee member Omar Barghouti believes mistakenly that, quote, international law does give people under occupation the right to resist in any way, including armed resistance, unquote. In other words, Alice Walker chose to make her statement on the platform of an organization which aspires by any means to oppose coexistence in the Middle East and bring about an end to the Jewish state. That, too, should not be surprising. For another of Alice Walker's pet hobbies is supporting an additional Palestinian organization which opposes dialogue, seeks to bring about the end of Israel, and openly calls for the murder of Jews, Hamas. In 2011, Walker joined the failed flotilla in Gaza, engaging in self-promotion on the pages of The Guardian along the way. Walker's flowery prose was full of buzzwords such as justice and respect, but any concern for the people of Israel's south, battered and traumatized for over a decade by the terror organizations involved in organizing that flotilla, was remarkably absent, as Howard Jacobson pointed out at that time. And then, of course, there's Alice Walker's involvement in the self-appointed kangaroo court cum echo chamber known as the Russell Tribunal on Palestine, which flits from venue to venue in order to reach the foregone conclusion of Israel's immutable guilt based on carefully pre-selected, quote, evidence. Walker claims her decision not to allow her books to be translated into Hebrew is part of her ongoing attempt to, quote, rid humanity of its self-destructive habits of dehumanizing whole populations, unquote. Yet it has obviously never occurred to her that she is supremely guilty of that fault herself. A woman who would liken Israelis who live on the, quote, wrong side of the Green Line to the Ku Klux Klan is an unserious political poser, an extremist engaged in incendiary, hateful, and dehumanizing rhetoric about hundreds of thousands of Jews.
a once-celebrated literary figure who holds steady with the sophomoric belief that the United States and Israel are the great terrorist organizations of our time, is someone who has become a 60s political anachronism, an embarrassment to those who may have succumbed to the temptation of imputing to Walker true wisdom by virtue of her literary achievements. A person who excuses terror and murder by claiming that this is David and Goliath, but Goliath is not the Palestinians. They are David. They are the ones with the slingshot. They are the ones with the rocks and relatively not so powerful rockets. Stop! The rockets are relatively not so powerful, she says. I guess in her mind that means it's okay to shoot them into civilian neighborhoods and try and kill men, women, and babies. Much of Walker's self-allocated expertise and supreme authority on the subjects of terrorism, discrimination, and apartheid is, by her own account, based on her experiences growing up in the South of the United States. But by choosing to support a plethora of organizations which seek to deny Jews the right to self-determination, like any other nation in the world, and in promoting her own radical chic credentials by deeming a language in the nation that speaks it beyond the pale, Walker shows herself to be no better than the Deep South racists of her youth. Stop. I'll repeat that. Alice Walker shows herself to be no better than the Deep South racists of her youth. Unquote. Alice Walker is no better than a racist because she is a racist. Let's continue. Walker, schooled in the art of compassion, liberalism, evidently fails to note the succor she's providing for the most illiberal reactionary Islamic movements, forces of anti-Semitic intolerance that resemble, indeed wildly exceed, the fervor of hardcore racism arduously defended during the 50s and 60s in places like Jackson, Mississippi, and Birmingham, Alabama. Unquote. Ms. Walker, congratulations. You're not only an idiot, but you're a racist. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tom Phillips, founder of the Green Herb.
The people who are controlling the government of America are the same people who are trying to control your family's health care. You can sit quietly by and accept their plan, or you can take responsibility for your health. What would happen if you could no longer obtain the medications you're now taking? Would you be forced to join the ranks of corrupt agents just to purchase the medicine? If you're one of the thousands of concerned citizens who would like to know more about a natural way, God's way to health, drop by the Green Herb for a natural solution and all the information you need to make an intelligent decision. Or go to our website, www.thegreenherb.com. Come by the Green Herb, located in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, on the I-70 Frontage Road North, 1 mile west of Kipling, or call 888-765-HERB. That's 888-765-4372. And be sure to listen to the Green Herb Show with Linda and Dr. Cass every Tuesday at 1 o'clock on KHNC.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. CINN Stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine, point, and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN Stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices. The Beth Messiah congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal mid-Rosh and fellowship. Beth Messiah congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath.
Folks, welcome back to Real Truth. One of the more shameful aspects of life in America in the 21st century is that you get more accurate and true information on Russia today than you ever will on CBS, NBC, ABC, CNBC, you name it. There's more truth being spoken on Russia today. And I'm almost embarrassed to put this stuff on, but this is the real goods. This is what's really happening. And no matter who's giving it to us, we need to hear it. In New York, over the Father's Day weekend, there was a march, approximately 50,000 individuals marching. It was a silent march. Their goal was to protest the stop and frisk rules that are now law in New York City. It's a disgusting spectacle by the police. It's a great spectacle to see thousands and thousands of people marching in the street silently, peacefully, to let the government know it's overstepped its bounds. Anyway, let's listen to the Russia Today report right now.
Let's switch gears now to New York City. The streets there absolutely packed on Father's Day, with people hoping to send a message to Mayor Michael Bloomberg and Police Commissioner Ray Kelly. They're hoping to end the policy known as stop and frisk. Take a look at the march, and you will notice it's pretty quiet. It's a silent march. The crowd estimated to be as large as 50,000 people who took part. Members of the NAACP, the ACLU, National Action Network, and thousands of people concerned about a policy in which New York police are not only allowed, they are encouraged to stop people behaving in a way they deem suspect. Last year, 685,724 people were stopped. 88% of those, guess what? They were innocent. And 53% of them were black, 34% of them Latino. So, let's be honest, folks, the racial profiling aspect of this is unquestionable. The march was a success, but it did turn a little chaotic, with many protesters clashing with police by the end. And I want to go down to Carl Dix from the Revolutionary Communist Party. He's in New York. And, Carl, you were at the march yesterday. How did it go?
I thought it went great. I thought this was something that needed to happen, that people who hate stop and frisk, who see it for the racist, illegal policy that it is, had a chance to come out and express that opposition and to say, we don't want a tweaked stop and frisk. We don't want it mended but not ended, as Mayor Bloomberg is fond of beginning to say. We want to see that policy ended. So I thought it was a great day yesterday.
Now, we put some numbers up just a moment ago. 685,000 plus people stopped, frisked in 2011. Some people estimating that as many as 800,000 people could be stopped this year under this policy. Talk a little bit about what you think is actually behind this. You know, the mayor and the police commissioner, of course, saying they want to prevent crime before it happens. But do you think there's something else going on here?
Well, there's definitely something else going on, and they are on pace to top 800,000 this year. And what's going on is that black and Latino youth in particular are being treated like criminals, guilty until proven innocent if they can survive to prove their innocence. I mean, you look at the fact that like 7 out of 8 people who are stopped, they can't even write them a ticket, let alone arrest them. So they're stopping people who are doing nothing wrong. When you look at their reports of the suspicions that lead them to stop people, the thing that's most often cited is what they call furtive movements. And in explaining these furtive movements, they're actually absolutely contradictory. Some officers think a furtive movement is when someone looks away from them. Other officers consider it a furtive movement to look them directly in the eye. That's not any suspicion beyond the fact of the color of people's skin and using that to determine what's criminal. That's racial profiling. It is unconstitutional. In fact, it is racist, it's wrong, and it needs to be stopped.
And Carl, can you give us your take on, certainly the march seemed like a success, the amount of people that came out, pretty amazing. But after the march was sort of officially over, there were clashes with police. I was sort of following this on Twitter, police moving people, dividing some of the protesters, a lot of chaos happening. A couple people tweeted there were people getting dragged away by the police. Did you see sort of this aspect of yesterday's march?
I saw some parts of it. To me, that's a very minor thing. What happened was a silent march was called. Thousands and thousands of people marched silently down Fifth Avenue. At the end of it, some people felt that they had to raise their voices, did so. The police, I thought, were overly heavy-handed in dealing with it, trying to force people physically on the street, pushing people around, and that's what precipitated the clash. But it was a minor thing in relation to an overall very strong silent march. And here, to me, here is much more the question. Because Cornel West and I issued a call back in the fall for a campaign of civil disobedience to end stop and frisk, to stop stop and frisk. We did 3 police stations. We put forward, let's stop this, not let's change it, let's tweak it, but let's stop it. And the question becomes, we think that those actions helped to bring yesterday about. The question is going forward from here, because the mayor is saying, I'll mend it but not end it. And we need a movement of resistance that's not going to allow that to happen.
And you mentioned Cornel West. We're showing video of Dr. West right now, and actually of yourself from before of
Harlem,
yes, from when you all got arrested last time. Certainly, you have been working on this for so long. I think
we have.
I think it's interesting, Carl. Mayor Bloomberg has said he wants to end the stand your ground law. That was the law made famous in the shooting death of Florida teen Trayvon Martin, and yet this is a policy, the stop and frisk policy under his watch, that also sort of targets people who are not necessarily committing crimes. Do you think that's a little ironic?
Yes. Well, no, it's not ironic, because what Bloomberg is saying is, I will criticize racial profiling 1,500, 1,800 miles away. However, when my police carry it out, it is okay because it's aimed at crime. And what it's aimed at is criminalizing the youth. And what I wanted to bring in, those of us who got arrested in that civil disobedience campaign, we've got 2 trials coming up. One in...
All right, that doesn't interest me for the moment. But the point is this. Occupy Wall Street, and now more people. Not part of Occupy Wall Street, but more people. 50,000 people strong taking to the streets. Now, the media pundits, the Rush Limbaughs and the Sean Hannitys, they could dissect the members in the crowd. Some are liberal, some are conservative, some are white, some are black, some are Hispanic, some are Asian, and say, what are these guys doing? Why don't they have jobs? What do they want? There's no cogent message. They're all over the place. They're so diverse, there's no telling what they want. Guys, you are precisely right. It is diverse, and it is everybody. But what it is they want an end to stop and frisk. It's an outrage. It is directly opposing and in violation of the Constitution. It would be like saying police can now murder people in cold blood. It's obviously illegal. Well, the Constitution prohibits search and seizure. Okay? Let's move on. We've made our point. My friends, if you want to organize silent march, a peaceful march against such police measures in your hometowns, I think you'd be right to do so, and you would have my full support. Just call the station. Let me know. We'll be back with more Real Truth.
The Beth Messiah congregation invites you to come and experience a Messianic Roots biblically based congregational fellowship as we observe God's Shabbat in Messiah Yeshua. Praise and worship services begin at 10:30 a.m., followed by an Oneg Shabbat meal, mid-Rosh, and fellowship. Beth Messiah congregation is located at 8333 Acoma Way in North Denver. You can find out more information by calling 1-800-205-6245. Everyone's welcome, so join us this Shabbat. And Shabbat Shalom, good Sabbath. If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival.
If you're spending hard-earned money on supplements, you need to know about Bio Superfood because you're probably shortchanging yourself on nutrition and value. If you're buying products claiming to provide DNA protection from radiation, you're getting ripped off by inferior copycat products because there's no other product developed or researched like Bio Superfood. Bio Superfood is one complete superfood product that addresses radiation poisoning, allergies, arthritis, diabetes, high blood pressure, and other degenerative diseases. Bio Superfood helps digestion, decreases pain and inflammation, increases flexibility, improves heart health and brain function. It boosts your immune system and even inhibits the AIDS virus and cancerous cells. It's an antibacterial, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory. Bio Superfood is not another supplement. It's a whole food and contains over 5,000 nutrients. Call now and ask about your special discounts on your Bio Superfood purchase at 303-257-7576. That's 303-257-7576 or biosuperfood@hotmail.com.
My friends, welcome back to Real Truth. While you're wandering around online looking for my Facebook page, Real Truth Radio, you will find a link to a YouTube video, the headline of which is, Execution, Islam Murders a Young Mother. It's not that the headline is so unusual. It just caught my attention, and I figured, let's check this out, so let's listen to it. This, by the way, comes from a CNN broadcast.
The grief and agony of two young girls who wait to see if the Pakistani government will execute their jailed mother. Whenever I see her picture, I cry, says 12-year-old Isham. This month, a Pakistani court sentenced Isham and Isha's mother, Asia Bibi, to death. Not because she killed, injured, or stole, but simply because she said something. Prosecutors say Asia Bibi insulted Islam and the Prophet Muhammad. They say the alleged incident happened when she was picking berries in this field in the town of Itanwali, just about 2 hours west of Lahore. Court records show Asia was sharing a bucket of drinking water with fellow workers, but when she dipped her cup, her fellow workers refused the water, saying it had been touched by a non-Muslim woman. Asia Bibi is a Christian. The women argued. Mafia Sitar and her sisters say they were there and heard Asia's insults. She said your Muhammad had worms in his mouth before he died, Sitar told us. A crude way of saying Muhammad was no prophet. The town cleric Qari Salam reported the incident to police, who arrested Bibi. After nearly 15 months in this jail came the conviction and the death sentence. Per Section 295C of Pakistan's Penal Code. Whoever defiles the name of the Prophet Muhammad shall be punished with death or imprisonment for life. When I heard the decision, my heart ached, says Asia's husband, who denies she ever insulted Muhammad. He says death threats forced him and his daughters, one of them disabled, to flee their village. Human rights groups have long blamed Pakistan's blasphemy laws for persecution and violence against religious minorities, like this attack last year on a Christian village and recent bombings of minority Muslim mosques. Activists say the government has refused to amend the law for fear of a backlash from Islamist groups and their followers, who deem scrapping the law as un-Islamic. Pakistan's law minister did not respond to our request for an interview. Should Asia Bibi be hanged in her hometown? The verdict to that? A unanimous yes. The town cleric called Asia's death sentence one of the happiest moments of his life. Tears of joy poured from my eyes, he said. The cleric's tears in stark contrast to those shed by two girls who want their mother to live. Reza Sayah, CNN, Itanwali, Pakistan.
Now imagine, my friends, one of the happiest moments of that cleric's life. He wept tears of joy. Was because a Christian woman is going to be executed for something she said. But don't listen to that. Don't worry about it. Muslims are just like you and me. They're sweet folks, aren't they? Aren't they? Item from Front Page Mag. This week, military judge Gregory Gross barred Major Nidal Malik Hassan from appearing in court because he refused to shave a beard he reportedly grew as a badge of his deep Islamic faith. The beard, Judge Gross said, was a violation of Army policy. As it happened, so were Hassan's actions in November of 2009 at Fort Hood, Texas. As one of the early press accounts noted, Major Hassan packed a revolver and an FN Hurst-style pistol and stuffed the cargo pockets of his camouflage pants full of 20-round ammunition clips. Then he opened fire on U.S. Army soldiers while shouting, Allahu Akbar, or Allah is great. In a matter of minutes, Hassan, a U.S. Army psychiatrist, trained to help soldiers deal with the horrors of war, had killed 13 and wounded 30. He was methodical, aiming carefully at those seeking cover. Kimberly Munley, a police officer married to a Fort Hood soldier, saw Major Hassan chasing a wounded soldier across a courtyard and opened fire on Hassan. He returned fire and hit her twice, but one of her shots nailed Hassan in the chest and took him down. Munley survived the attack, but 13 others did not. Unquote. My friends, I repeat to you, Muslims, just like us, aren't they? Nice bunch of guys. Item from the Rutherford.org. A divided Supreme Court has struck down an unconstitutional key provision of Arizona's immigration law. We covered that already. Item from GodfatherPolitics.com. Barack Obama's transition from president to king continues with his invoking of executive privilege to block Congress from documents related to Eric Holder's involvement in Fast and Furious, the Justice Department program that put U.S. guns in the hands of Mexican drug runners. Stop. My friends, if it seems to you that Mexican drug runners and Islamic terrorists are happier since Obama became president, it's not your imagination. They are. What about illegal immigrants? They are. What about people who oppose everything the United States stands for, including its Constitution? They are. They are delighted to see one of their own in the White House. Let's continue. For a second time in a week, President Obama has shown he not only doesn't care what Congress thinks, but he has the power and the inclination to just roll over the legislative branch and anyone in it, particularly the GOP members. Executive privilege is something to which presidents occasionally resort, but given the nature of the Fast and Furious probe and following hot on the heels of Obama's decree of amnesty for millions of illegal immigrants, this is not the normal legal functioning of the executive office so much as the second in a 1-2 punch to Congress's midsection. By keeping subpoenaed documents related to Fast and Furious out of the hands of the congressional panel led by California Congressman Darrell Issa, Obama is hiding information about a federal operation that didn't just go awry, but that resulted in the death of a Border Patrol agent. There is blood on Eric Holder's hands, and he must give an adequate answer for it, unquote. My friends, here's why Holder does not have to give an adequate answer, because you and I just plain old don't care. We don't matter, I should say. We don't matter to the power brokers, and the power brokers are making little pretense anymore. They're running things the way they want, not even bothering to give us the fig leaf that they're answering to us, to we the people. They don't care about we the people at all, and it's never been more obvious. We'll be back with more Real Truth.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, The feasts of the Lord, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work on it. It is the Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. Leviticus chapter 23, verse 1 through 3. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. CINN stations in Alt salutes our troops. Whether you're for the war or against it, they're still there. These men and women deserve more than our support. They deserve the comfort of home. Send a military care package today. Just type military care package into a search engine. Point and click. Let's show our troops we care. This message from CINN stations in Alt, wishing Godspeed to our fighting men and women and thanking them for their triumphs and their sacrifices. Restore Health and Counseling salutes the men and women in uniform who've answered the call for our freedoms. Let's give them the hero's welcome they deserve as they have fought hard to restore peace. America's troops are our angels of protection, so stand up and salute them proudly. That's from Restore Health and Counseling at 4705 Paris Street, serving Northeast Denver with complete substance abuse counseling for adolescents to adult and for private as well as professional drug, alcohol screening and treatment and rehabilitation. Visit us at www.rhctherapy.com or call 303-373-1188.
Welcome back to Real Truth, my friends. Item from the Economic Collapse blog. Headline, Too Much Debt, Our Biggest Economic Problem. I quote, what is the biggest economic problem the United States is facing? Very simply, our biggest problem is that we have way too much debt. Over the past 30 years, household debt, corporate debt, and government debt have all grown much faster than our GDP has. But no nation on earth has ever been able to expand debt much faster than national output indefinitely. All debt bubbles eventually burst. Right now, we're living in the greatest debt bubble in the history of the world. All of this debt has fueled a false prosperity, which has enabled many Americans to live like kings and queens. But no nation or household can pile on more debt forever. At some point, the weight of the debt becomes just too great. It's amazing that the United States has been able to pile up as much debt as it has. Over the years, many authors have predicted that U.S. government finances would collapse long before the U.S. national debt ever got to this level. So the mountain of debt that we've accumulated is quite a quote-unquote achievement, if you want to look at it that way. But the clock is ticking on this debt bubble, and when it collapses, we will say bye-bye to our vastly inflated standard of living, and we'll discover we've destroyed the economy for all future generations of Americans. Sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. When most Americans think of the debt problem in this country, they think of the debt of the federal government. But that's not the only debt bubble that we're facing. 30 years ago, household debt in the United States was approaching the $2 trillion mark. Today, it's sitting at about $13 trillion. We have been trained to pay for everything with debt. We pay for our homes with debt, and mortgage debt as a percentage of GDP has more than tripled since 1955. We pay for our cars with debt, and at this point, about 70% of all auto purchases in the U.S. involve an auto loan. We pay for higher education with debt, and the total amount of student loan debt in America recently surpassed the $1 trillion mark. Wherever we go, we pay with plastic. If you want a heated cat bed and a cute little cat sweater for your little kitty, just put it on your Visa or MasterCard. Amazingly, consumer debt in America has risen by a whopping 1,700% since 1971. And if you can believe it, 46% of all Americans carry a credit card balance from month to month. We are absolutely addicted to debt, and we do not know how to stop. Our state and local governments are also addicted to debt. 30 years ago, state and local government debt was approaching the $400 million mark. Today, state and local government debt is hovering around the $3 trillion mark, unquote. My friends, I'm going to let you read the rest of this item either on my Facebook page or on the Economic Collapse blog. If you are rolling over debt, credit card debt, from 1 month to the next, I have to tell you something. I used to do that long before I got smart. Do not ever do that. If you are at all able, turn off that spigot, okay? The credit card company is getting immense amounts of money in credit, in interest from you. And you do not have enough money, if you're in this position, to pay interest as well as the principal. So if you can, and I mean sacrifice to do it, pay your credit cards off. Don't buy anything you can't afford. Don't put it on time. Don't figure it'll take care of itself down the road. It doesn't. It won't. It can't. America is drowning from spending money we don't have. Who's the loser? Well, obviously it's us. Obviously it's America, too. Obviously it's Americans who will be alive after we are gone. Our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they are going to be saddled with unthinkable debt because we spent money like idiots. I'll be back tomorrow with more real truth. My friends, until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay out of debt.